Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the NeverPeak Project Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Ranger. In today's episode, I'm going to be going over the general definition of a referral network, give you some examples of what a referral network could look like, as well as some strategies that I have found useful in building up a clientele and referral basis in one of these organizations. Grab a beverage, sit back, relax, and let's get going. To really just set the tone and clarify what it is that we're going to be talking about, I just want to define what a referral network is and give a few examples of what that could look like. One of the biggest referral networks in the world is BNI, Business Networking International. I'm sure that there is one probably in every major city, in every single state, all across the country, all across the world. There are some localized referral networks. I was a part of one in Modesto called Gold Star Referral Network. I believe that one started in Oklahoma, so that's in a few different states, but it's not quite as large as BNI. Then there are some more localized industry-specific ones or club-specific ones, such as the BRN, which is through the San Mateo Chamber of Commerce, and that stands for Business Referral Network. And really, to just get down straight to the definition of what a referral network is, a referral network is a structured system designed to facilitate warm introductions and business opportunities to its members. Typically, a lot of networking groups, even just General Chamber of Commerce or a few other ones I'll get into in just a second, a lot of other networking groups are just focused on shaking hands, meeting people, exchanging business cards, just trying to get to know who others are in the industry. And what I have kind of found difficult about that is I've been to quite a few of them. One of the biggest examples that I can think of off the top of my head is the Small Business Expo that was in South San Francisco a few months ago. I did a podcast episode about some takeaways from that, as well as a blog post. But where organizations like BNI and networking events like that is they are not organized. There are timelines and there's keynotes and there's all these other things that happen during those events. But with BNI, there is a specific structure and a focus on giving referrals to other members and receiving referrals back. The networking events that I've been to at the Chamber of Commerce, or like I said, the Small Business Expo, it was just kind of this mad dash to make connections. You have to go up and talk to people. You have to make a huge effort in order to even just exchange cards with someone. I still attend those events. I love those events. I've gotten better at networking and talking to folks. Really, where organizations like BNI differ is that you are in a room with the same people every single week in order to get to know them and their business and explain and educate everyone else there about your business and what you offer and the results that you can give potential clients. To be clear, there is an expectation that you also give referrals in that group, but we'll touch more on that later and how I have found a way to do that without feeling weird about it. So to clarify how I am defining a referral network is it is a group of business owners or people that work for a business that meet every single week or every other week that is industry specific, where there can only be one life coach. There can only be one banker, one real estate agent, one mortgage broker. They meet every single week. They typically do a 30-second elevator pitch about their business, and there's some form of accountability and structure to ensure that everybody is actively participating and that people aren't just sitting there trying to collect referrals without putting in any work themselves. That is what I'm going to be defining as a referral network for the rest of this podcast. Now, in Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Leads, he talks about a method called the Core 4 to get more leads for your business. And the Core 4, that stands for warm outreach, cold outreach, posting free content, and running paid ads. Those are 4 different methods that you can use in order to get more leads for your business. And a little bit later in the book, he starts talking about something called the Core 4 on steroids, which he refers to more appropriately as lead getters. Now, there's 4 major types of lead getters. There's customers, affiliates, employees, and agencies. And the reason that I share that with you is that the original Core 4, warm outreach, cold outreach, posting free content, running paid ads, that's all what you can do as a business owner. That is you putting in the work, hours for dollars essentially. Whereas the Core 4 on steroids and getting lead getters for your business, that is using the power of other people in your network. Another thing that Alex Hormozi says in his book is where the Core 4 and the lead getters kind of differ is that there's only one of you, but if you're able to get other people to help you get leads, there's way more of them. And that's what I really love about referral networks is you're kind of training your own sales team every single week and through one-to-one meetings, which again, we'll get to in just a second. But it's about getting people in your network, in your local area, to be on the lookout for you while you're on the lookout for them. It's really just making sure that local commerce is consistently supporting itself. And personally, that kind of network and structure team is something that I really love and value. And before we get further on, I want to be able to explain something that is a huge thing to keep in mind if you are a part of one of these referral networks, is the difference between a tip, a lead, and a referral. Now, when we're in a referral network, we want to strive for referrals. In BNI, it's a level 1 to a level 5. In Gold Star, it was just kind of on the spectrum of a tip, lead, and referral. Now, what I want to really get across is when we're in these referral networks, we want to give and receive qualified referrals from and to one another. Now, to just kind of keep it in mind, a tip, lead, and referral, think 0, 1, 2. And that number is referring to the amount of contact information that has been exchanged. When you're just giving a tip to someone, it could be something as simple as, hey, to the painter in your group, on my way to work the other day, I noticed that there was this building. The paint looks like absolute garbage. You might want to go drop off a card or go check it out. Here's the address. That's just a little bit of information. There's no contact information exchange. Sure, you might have given them the address or you might have told them where something was, but that doesn't really help anything. They still have to go out there. They still have to prospect. They still have to do all of the work. Is it useful? Sure. Is it what we're there for? Not necessarily. Now, when we're moving into a lead, now Alex Hormozy defines that as a lead is somebody that you can contact. Now, an example of this could be, hey, Tom, the painter in my group, one of my neighbors was talking about his house a little bit. I have his number on my phone. I can just give it to you. Maybe just give him a call and just see where it goes. That is nice because there is a need that was identified. There is some kind of potential use for your service. However, there's a good chance that the person referring never really talked to the neighbor and they're not expecting the call from Tom the painter. And that can cause an issue because if Tom calls that person and that person has no idea who they are or why they're calling, it's just another sales call and they're just going to get hung up on. It doesn't really help anything. Is it useful? Sure. Is it what we're looking for? No. Whereas a referral, a proper referral, is, again, number 2, and that is for 2 forms of contact information exchange. That could look something like, hey, Tom, come here real quick. Last weekend I was at my neighbor's house for a barbecue, and we got to talking. We went inside his house, and I noticed that some of the paint was chipping. And when I asked him about it, he said, I'm really trying to find someone that I can trust. I can really find somebody that can take care of this. I hired somebody else, but I just kind of found them on the yellow pages or on Google. Didn't do a great job. So, I'm just don't know who to go to. You, as the member of the referral network, can say, here's my buddy Tom. Here's his card. Pull it up on the online directory. I'm going to talk to him on Tuesday. I'm going to let him know to give you a call. Is that all right with you? Here's some of his work. And you, as the person referring them, and assuming you've done one-to-ones and you got to know that person, can say, oh, Tom, he also loves the 49ers or the Raiders or whoever, and really connect with that person. So they kind of get to feel like they know something about Tom before Tom even calls. And then Tuesday rolls around, you're able to give Tom that referral, say, hey, Tom, here is my neighbor's number. I already gave him your contact info. He is expecting your call. And then Tom is able to make that phone call, chat up the neighbor, and get the problem fixed. Another way that you can do that is by putting both of them in a text thread, putting both of them in an email thread. Really, you just want to ensure that both people know who the other person is, at least a little bit. Explain to Tom what the problem is, explain to your neighbor how Tom can fix that problem. And really just make sure that they have some form of communication, a clearly defined line of communication, and that both parties have agreed to talk to one another. I just want to talk about the difference between a tip, lead, and referral right off the bat to make sure that everybody is on the same page. Because again, while a tip or a lead could be helpful, it's better than nothing. But a referral is really the gold standard in what we are looking for. It kind of shows that person that you're referring has your stamp of approval. Now, the next thing that I want to go over is what I call the know, like, and trust spectrum. It is kind of the timeline that people go through when they join a referral network before they're able to get their first clients from it, their first referrals. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because people only refer people that they know, like, and trust. But what does it mean to be known, to be liked, and to be trusted? When I say know, that can be something as simple as you've gone to a couple meetings, you've already joined the chapter, people know who you are, they know your name, they know your business, they know generally what you do. It's just being known, it's just kind of advertising yourself and kind of being able to stick in people's minds who you are and what you do. And that is, again, as simple as attending meetings and doing basic one-to-ones. Now, I've said one-to-ones a couple times. I'm finally going to explain what that is. A one-to-one is a meeting that you have with another person in the group, 1-to-1, either in person, via Zoom, over coffee, over a meal, at each other's places of work, whatever, where you get to know that person even more. Now, typically during the meetings for BRN, BNI, Gold Star, you typically have a 30 to 60 second time frame where you can give an elevator pitch about who you are and what you do. That's very basic. It gives people an idea of the service that you provide and the transformation that you offer to your clients. Whereas in a one-to-one, you can have anywhere from 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes, depending on how long you agree to have the one-to-one for, where you can really talk about who you are, your background, why you're an expert in this field, and how and why people should refer you. And the great things about one-to-ones is that not only are you building up that know factor with the person sitting in front of you, but you're also building up that second part, which is being liked. You can show that you're likable by being approachable, by having conversations, by remembering people's names, knowing what they do, being able to have a conversation. There's one of the gals in my BNI group, something that we found out about each other during a one-to-one that we had was that we both keep exotic animals. We both have snakes and lizards. She hasn't quite gotten to spiders as far as I know. I have, but it's really a way to really get to know each other, to show that you have more things in common than you really think you do. Something that I've been doing in my BNI group to build up that like factor is just being very excited and kind of throwing myself into what the group has to offer. I was put as the one-to-one coordinator pretty early on, just a few weeks into me joining, and I've really just tried to run with it. I think that's one of those cases where how you do anything is how you do everything. And I really wanted to show that I'm going to show up for the group, like see all the things I'm doing when I'm not getting paid. Imagine if you send a referral my way. Imagine if you were to send your mom or your best friend or a coworker or a colleague of yours. Like I'm going to show up for them just like I'm showing up for this group. That's a very easy way to show that you are just a likable person. And when I say that, I also don't want to sound like I'm being inauthentic when I'm doing all those things. I really do enjoy the process and think that there is a lot of value to add, and I enjoy being of service to others. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind is that you can't really fake enthusiasm. You have to be enthusiastic yourself. And if you don't feel enthusiastic during those things, what I would do is reconsider what your mission statement is, why you're showing up in the first place, and really clarifying the benefits of being enthusiastic in that regard. And going back to one-to-ones, now that I'm off my soapbox about the importance of being likable, is that it really gives you that opportunity to build up that trust factor. During those one-to-ones, during that 10, 15, 20, 30-minute long meeting that you have with the other person, you're able to showcase your service and the solutions you're able to offer to potential referees. You're able to say, hey, this is who I am, this is my qualification, this is how long I've been doing it, this is why I love doing it, and really able to show that passion throughout that meeting to show that you are credible, capable, and competent enough to take on any referral within your industry and ability of service. And another thing that I have found extremely useful in that trust factor is showing off testimonials. Currently, I have 20 testimonials on Google, and I have about 15 reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So it just shows that I have been able to consistently show up for clients. I've been able to make consistently good content that people appreciate. And I've noticed that when I'm able to give explicit examples of, I had a client, typically I change the name, so I'm saying, I'll call him Bill or we'll call her Nancy. This is the problem that she had. This is the problem that he went through. This is the solutions that we came up with, and this is where they are now. Being able to clearly communicate the past successes that you've had in your business helps a ton in terms of building up that trust factor. And again, that is something that you're able to share during a one-to-one or your extended presentation that you typically get in these referral networks. Another way to show trust and show that you're really bought in is to try to offer referrals first. Again, when you're giving referral to someone, you want to keep in mind that spectrum of a tip, a lead, and a referral, and really aim for that referral aspect. And when you're giving a referral, you don't want to just give a random name or have a scapegoat that you kind of just pretend to send referrals to. You really want to be on the lookout for problems that people in your network are facing. For example, I was on a one-to-one call with a gentleman from a chapter a little bit further south of where I am, and he mentioned that he is from a foreign country and he wants to work on his American accent, but he hasn't been able to find a trusted accent coach anywhere. And I didn't even know that was a thing. But by listening to him make a complaint about that and talk about that is something that he wants to work on, I kind of kept it in the back of my mind. And then the next day, I was on a national call for BNI, and somebody in the call mentioned that they're an accent coach. So I DM'd her, told her I might have a referral for her. I messaged the other guy and let him know, and I was able to make that connection via email. And I haven't heard anything back just yet, but that's just one of those examples where you're looking for someone who has a problem, and then you're looking for someone who has the solution, and just making a quick connection. And again, I'm really hoping that it works out for both of them so that she can help him and he can get helped by her. And if you want an actionable strategy for that, if you're in one of these referral networks or you're not able to join one right now for some reason, what I would still do is set up one-to-one meetings with people. I aim to have 1 to 3 one-to-ones a week, if not more. My record right now, I think, is around 8 or 9 in a week. So I'm really trying to bump up those numbers and do even more. Again, as one-to-one coordinator, I kind of want to be the highest every week. But the importance of a one-to-one is that you're able to really listen to not only what they offer, but what they may be looking for. So I would schedule anywhere from 1 to 3 of those a week, so that you're able to get to know everybody in your chapter and your organization. And the final thing that I want to talk about in this podcast is the importance of clarity in your messaging. Now, I was in Gold Star for just shy of a year, and it took me about 6 months to get my first referral. And, I was really just banging my head against the wall. I was really trying to hone my elevator pitch. I was trying to do as many one-to-ones as possible, until I realized one day that I don't think that I was being clear in what it was that I was looking for, or the services that I provide as a coach. And that is something to keep in mind, that if you're in a common industry, that's what I like to call them. I call them the big 5, and that's typically real estate agent, mortgage broker, CPA, some kind of attorney, and then a general contractor, whether it's a gardener, roofer, etc. Those people are typically going to get the most referrals from what I have seen and experienced. And that's because they solve a very clear problem. That even if somebody isn't really sure what they do or what they specialize in, if somebody says that they want to buy a house, they're going to call the realtor. If somebody's going to call the realtor, they're able to work with the mortgage broker to get them a house. If somebody is having tax issues, which taxes are something that come up every single year, they're going to call the CPA. And then same thing with the lawyer, same thing with the general contractor. Somebody's roof is leaky, they're going to call the local roofer. If they need somebody to take care of their lawn, they're going to call the gardener. And I am beating this dead horse, but that is the point I'm trying to get across, is that it's kind of like, I think I just kind of made this up on the spot right here, but I kind of want to call it the blender effect. Like, it's very clear what a blender does. It blends things. It's clear what an anteater is. It eats ants. Whereas people in my category, for example, in the coaching, the consultant kind of realm, it might be a little bit harder for somebody to recognize when somebody in their network has that problem. When does somebody need a life coach? When does somebody actually need a therapist? Like, it's not always very clear on when something like that can happen. And the other thing that we run into as coaches, consultants, is personalities and messaging and vibe are all at play with referring us. So that is something to keep in mind if you're in one of these other kinds of industries. What I want to get across here really is, if people don't understand what you do, they aren't going to be able to refer you properly. And again, I didn't get my first referral until about 5 to 6 months into my time in Gold Star in Modesto. That's because I was trying to be too fancy. I was using big words. I was trying to sound smarter than I actually was. And I did have a little bit of nerves going into it. So while I was trying to sound smarter, all I did was look shy and kind of confused about what I even do. And that is not something that you want to come across as when you're in one of these networks. So when you're talking about the problems you solve and what you do during that 30-second elevator pitch, you want to be very clear. I help target audience solve X problem by offering blank solution. That is very clear. It's very concise. But again, for people in the category of coaching or etc., typically I have seen that there is a little bit more of a problem with really defining the avatar that you're looking to work with and the solution that you provide. Another thing that I've noticed people do is they typically have some kind of catchy slogan or saying, some kind of rhyming scheme at the very end of their presentation. Now, something that I use typically is imagine the peaks you'll reach in just 12 weeks. That is very clear, it's memorable, and it kind of keeps something in people's minds after the meeting is over. Now, that has been helpful, especially in terms of getting initial referrals or starting conversations about potential referrals. I was able to get a couple after I started using that little slogan. Another thing that I started doing to be more clear was talking about specific pain points that I could solve with my coaching. Being able to call out specific problems you can solve or how you have solved specific problems is also extremely valuable. There was one time when I was in Gold Star and Modesto that I mentioned a few different types of avatars or situations that I could help in. And what really struck a nerve with this person was I can help with step-parent to step-child relationship issues. I said something along the lines of, if you know somebody that is a step parent and they have a stepchild and communication isn't really there, there's an aspect of you're not my mom, but you are, or you're not my dad, but you kind of are, let me know and I'd be more than happy to help you figure out what's going on there. And she was able to refer me one of her friends that is going through that exact problem. Then I started saying a few more things like that, and I started getting more and more referrals for specific areas that I could help with. So when it comes to being clear, having a clear, I help blank person do this by doing this, here are some examples of people that I've helped, and having a little bit of a rhyming scheme at the end, that has helped a ton in terms of being clear about who it is that you help and how you do that. And to really drive home this last point of being clear is, again, being clear on the best way for people to introduce you to a prospective client. Let them know exactly what to say if they come across somebody that has your problem. Hey, I know this great coach. Hey, I know this great lawn care person. Hey, I know this great attorney that can really help you with this problem. They're based out of San Mateo County. They do this. All their things are online. They shared this with me. Here's their website. Here's their card. I'm going to connect you with them. Being able to clearly explain to people the best way for them to put in contact with you is extremely valuable. And to really just wrap up this entire episode, the thing I want to clarify is that all of these groups really are just the epitome of you get out what you put in. If you're not doing one-to-ones, if you're not willing to get to know people in your groups, you're not willing to share referrals or look out for referrals for other people, I don't think you're going to have a very great time while you're in it. It might just become an energy drain for you throughout the week unless you're actively putting in good energy into the organization as a whole. So again, do one-to-ones, get out there, really build yourself up on that know, like, and trust continuum. Get on that continuum for other people as well. Give them the opportunity for you to get to know, like, and trust them. Really understand that you need to give qualified referrals to everybody. That builds up your trust factor. And then be very clear in the messaging that you are presenting at these meetings. If you have any questions or you want to add anything to this, please let me know. Go and send me an email at ranger@withinrangecoaching.com, and I'd be more than happy to chat with you. If you are in the San Mateo area, I'd be more than happy to invite you to a chapter meeting. And if you're not in the area, go ahead and just look up BNI chapters near me, and I'm pretty sure you're going to find one pretty easy. But as always, until next time, remember that the best is yet to come as long as you are willing to make the decision to never settle, never quit, and never peak. I'll see you guys in the next one.